Good evening, everyone. Welcome to session 3, day 3 of our budget deliberations. We will, based on the season presenters we have, we should be able to pretty much stay right on schedule. The plan is to go right into the work session 6. We'll rechange and President Scanlon will take it over for that. After the work session, we'll take a quick break, and then we'll reconvene after the work session with Lori and Jared to finish up the night from the budget perspective. So we kind of have bookends of budget around the work session, and based on Lee, Lori, and Jared as our presenters, I think we'll be pretty smooth tonight from that standpoint. So if we could stand for the pledge, take a quick roll call. Pledge allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the
United States of America and
to the
to the
republic
republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Lee or Grace, could you take a roll call for us?
Yes. Councilman Scaringi.
Present.
Councilwoman Resnetti.
Present.
Councilwoman Riley.
Present.
Councilwoman Friedman.
Present.
Councilman Burns. Councilman Burns might be absent. I'm sure he'll be tuning in soon. Councilman Strawn.
Present.
And President Scanlon.
Present.
Okay, that's 6 here, 1 absent. Burns.
Okay, great. So we'll get right into it. We have Ken on the line. I think I heard him a second ago, right?
Phil, you got to open up the pages first.
Yeah, I just want to make sure he was here. Is Ken with us?
I'm not sure. Grace is on the phone with him. She might have to send him another invite.
Phil, I can do some of this.
Okay, thank you, everyone. I'd like to open officially pages 26 and 27, pages 192 to 190 to 194. So that's 26 and 27 and 190 to 194 for consideration.
If we start on page 194 before Ken gets on.
Okay, that's fine.
This is my section.
Go ahead, Chuck.
This is the workers' comp section where we have 2 different types of worker comp programs right now. We have what I'm going to call the tail claims, which is prior to 2012. I believe it was 2012. We used to be self-insured, and we still have claims out there that are running themselves out. And then we also have our current workers' comp, which is a full premium-based policy. So if you look on page 194, the workers' comp claim numbers, I'm estimating the same number as last year, 440,000. Looks like we're going to run fairly close to that. Third-party administration, we pay a third party to pay these claims, $16,000 a year. That's going to remain the same. Managed care is, we have a PPO program set up with UHS where a person gets injured at the job. We send them there immediately, and that's a charge of $41,600, which UHS is going to maintain the same price there. And our workers' comp premium is going up from, as an estimate, from $1,323,100 to $1,338,520. The current carrier gave us a 2-year premium last year that expires this coming July. So I'm estimating it's going to go up a little bit, but I really don't have any factual numbers to base that off of. And then we have a few employees that we run through for payroll purposes, 48,000. So that takes care of the workers' comp section of the insurance fund. Did Ken join us yet?
No, Ken's not on. It looks like he's He said he's having some computer trouble. He's trying to restart his computer.
This is Councilwoman Friedman. I see Ken, but I can't hear him.
I am here.
Okay.
I apologize.
Now-
I'm getting a message. Slow network connection. The network connection may be too slow to support webcams. To improve connection speed,
Looks
turn
good
off
right now.
webcam. So I'm going to ignore it for the moment. Chuck, do you want to finish what page you were on, and then I'll jump in?
Ken, I did page 194. That was it. That's the only thing I have. So if you want to do your pages in the insurance fund.
Okay, I think you're more than
present.
Okay, Councilman Burns is logged in.
So Ken, I think you started on 192.
Okay, you want to start with the risk management, the insurance fund?
Yeah.
Okay. Give me 1 second. Okay. Sorry about that, everybody. Thank you for your patience. Right, so we're going to start on pages 192 and 193. That's the risk management portion of the budget. It's part of the insurance fund. Basically, these are the administrative costs to defend the city, right? I think all of you are aware the city is self-insured. So if one of our DPW drivers has an accident and hits another vehicle, we defend them, right? If there's a claim to be paid, we pay it, right? That's what the risk management budget is about. I want you to note something, and I'll go back to this, but when you look at personal services, right, you notice that they're broken down. For example, the first assistant corporation counsel, it says 0.5 and then gives a salary. That means that their salaries are divided between the insurance fund and the general fund, which will show up in the law budget. Right? And they do that because the insurance fund then gets allocated and charged to all of the other funds throughout the city. Right? And so they want to use some of the personnel because a lot of the attorney time in our office is spent defending the city. There are a few important lines in here, right? Let me go down to 54430, about 3/4 of the way down, under legal services. You notice this year we've already spent $86,000 out of a $90,000 budget. I will tell you that this is we're going to spend $200,000 to $250,000 out of this line by the time the year is over. All right, we have a lot of litigation going on right now. We have hearings where the people in my office are actually the witnesses. And so we have to hire outside counsel in those circumstances. Last year, we only spent $56,000. This year, we're going to end up spending probably $200,000 or more by the end of the year. Another important line, which actually we're going to, right at the bottom of the page, the emergency safety repair. So far, we've only spent $1,500 out of $20,000. But you look at 2019, we spent $52,000 out of that line. What that line is for is so that if there's city property that is going to be potentially dangerous, right, that could cause liability to the city, right, we try to repair it, and that's what this line is for. So even though we've been very good this year and have only used $1,500, I would suggest you keep it at $20,000. On the next page, there's only one line there. It's called provision for incurred loss, right? And that line, that's where we actually have the funds to pay the claims. So again, if a DPW truck hits a car, it costs $10,000 to fix that car, it comes out of this line. This line years ago used to be $200,000, right? Over time, we've dropped it down to $150,000. In 2019, we spent $102,000. This year, we've spent less than $18,000, right? Through the end of September, total claims against the city, $18,000. that's actually, I don't think we've ever done that well, but the additional money, that's where we're going to draw the money for all the outside counsel fees. Because this is really one risk management budget, and when we're not paying a lot of claims, we're usually paying a lot of fees for attorneys in order to make up the difference. And then on, Chuck, those are the 2 pages I really do. Does anybody have any questions on the risk management pages?
Yes, this is Councilwoman Friedman. I've got a couple of questions for you. There were, let me see. Okay, my first question was in line 54300. There seems to be a significant increase there from what was budgeted in years past. Could you talk a little bit more about that, please?
Aviva, I can talk about that, but I would prefer not to do it unless we were in executive session.
Okay.
Oh, for the various insurance costs?
Yeah.
Ken, if you put your head to it, you'll remember what we've added this year that is in
Yes.
there. I don't think that's something that we want to announce publicly.
Yeah, Chuck, you can, if you want to send an email to everybody on council, if you have that ability, to let them
Yep.
know what additional, but we've added coverage. Are there any other
Okay.
questions on these 2 pages?
Yes, I also noticed that the vehicle repair line hasn't been funded until this year. And could you talk more about that, please? Why we're budgeting $50,000 there when we haven't in the past?
Chuck?
Yes, let me explain that one to you, Aviva. Is in the past, we would budget the money here, but we never have an expense line to pay it out of. So every year, we're arguing with all the different departments that were in an accident, or if their car was damaged, they needed a new car, how are they going to pay for it? This way, we're putting the $50,000 in there that if a vehicle gets damaged by an outside person, Ken's group is going to collect the money and we'll still be able to get a vehicle before we have to wait for the money to come in, which sometimes may take 6, 9, 12 months to come in.
So Chuck, there's a corresponding revenue line for insurance, correct?
Yes. If you look on page 191, there's a M42680.
Yep, which is a negative 50.
Right.
So they just balance out and give us a specific line to pay those repairs from.
I gotcha. Where was that previously budgeted, that $50,000?
It really wasn't. We would just
Okay.
scramble to find the money in someone's department that got damaged.
What would happen is,
I
say,
see, okay.
DPW, they would have, some vehicle maintenance and repair lines, but they don't plan on one of their vehicles getting hit by a member of the public and it being totaled and it costing, $30,000 to replace, and it's going to take us 6 months to get the money from the insurance company.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you for the clarification.
Is
Okay.
the interfund revenues, is that how you allocate, Chuck, for the risk management?
If we go to page 191, basically you can see the interest earnings, the insurance recoveries, and then the interfund revenues is where we get the money from to cover everything in the M fund.
Okay.
The workers' comp is based off a number of employees and dollar values associated in each type of fund. So each one isn't broken out in the same percentage. It's broken out either by the revenue and expense breakout or by the employee compensation.
right, and Chuck, you said you did workers' comp?
Yes, I did.
Okay. So that's the insurance fund. That's pages 190 through 194. I don't know if there are any other questions on that.
I just have a follow-up question. This is Councilwoman Friedman. One more time. I'm wondering about that line that you said you'd prefer to talk about in executive session. Will council be able to find out more about what's going on there? Can
I
we
just
call an
sent out
executive session?
Aviv, I just sent everyone an email.
Oh, okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, it's Burns here. My audio was a little bad there, but did you explain? I'm wondering the workman's comp claims and workman's comp insurance. What's the difference between the two?
Workers' comp claims, Councilman Burns, is claims that are tail claims. We used to be self-insured back in 2012, I think was last year. So we're still paying claims outstanding on there.
Mhm.
So these are claims that predate our workers' comp insurance.
Okay. Thanks.
And if you go to page 190, the little summary for everyone to look at, the thing we have not talked about there is I'm appropriating $650,000 worth of fund balance. We have roughly $2.5 million in fund balance, and we're using $650,000 of that to reduce the cost from all the other funds.
This is Councilwoman Friedman again. I'm wondering what are you anticipating using that $650,000 for potentially?
What it's doing, Aviva, when you appropriate fund balance, it means that all the other funds do not have to pay as much money to the insurance fund.
Could you repeat that, please? Sorry.
When you're using the appropriated fund balance in the insurance fund, where their total expenses are going to be $2.5 million, normally we would take $2.5 million from all the other funds to fund that. This year, we're only taking 1.9, and we're reducing the cost. The general fund, the parking fund, refuse fund, the water and sewer funds don't have to pay to the M fund.
So this is a way to be sort of more self-sufficient, I guess. Is that a word you would use to describe that?
No, we don't. If you looked at the thing I sent you out, the insurance fund had back in 2015 had a negative fund balance. Okay, we've grown that up to $3.2 million. And there's no reason to keep $3 million worth of fund balance in the insurance fund. So we're utilizing some of that to help all the funds in a very bad budgeting year.
I see. Okay. So instead of this being $3 million, it's been reduced to $650,000. Is that correct?
No, the fund balance is going to go from 3.2 million down to like 2.5 million.
Okay. All right. I see. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, if there aren't any other questions, do you want to approve pages 190 through 194 before I go on to the law budget?
Sure, we can do that. I take a motion to approve pages 190 to 194. Move pages 190 through 194.
So moved.
Is that
Second.
Councilwoman Friedman? Was that Councilwoman Friedman on the motion?
Yes, it was.
Okay, cool. Thank you. I'm usually good at voices. Okay. So Ken and Lori, we got Councilwoman Friedman on the motion, Councilwoman Resiniti on the second. All in favor of moving 190 through 194?
Aye.
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 Anyone opposed? No. Okay. All right, Ken, go ahead to 26 and 27, please.
I have a
Go ahead.
question.
Go ahead.
First of all, I was wondering when the we're going to have a public hearing on the budget. Is that correct?
Yes.
Councilman Burns, this is Councilman Scanlon. I'll address it at the work session, okay?
Okay. All right. And then I'm just wondering, once we approve some of the pages, and let's say we have the public hearing, and somebody said something in the public hearing that strikes me, is it possible to bring back a page before we vote on that? How does that work? Or should we address that in the work session as well?
Once the pages are approved during the budget hearings, you need a supermajority vote, 5-2, to bring pages back.
Okay, thanks.
Right, and well, in this case, everybody voted for so far, so anybody could make that motion.
Okay.
If somebody were in
so
the
it's got to be
minority,
somebody.
if on
Okay,
these
all right,
pages the vote had been 4-3, only the people who voted with the 4 could make the motion to bring them back.
Okay, and then if you make the motion to bring it back, you still need a five vote
Yes.
to bring it back. Okay, thank you.
Okay, Ken, go ahead with 26 and 27.
Okay. Actually, this year we've got a lot going on in the law department budget. The law department budget is part of the general fund. And there are a few different things in personal services that I want to go over with everybody. Right. Again, you'll notice that a lot of these are percentages, right? Because they're divided between the general fund in the law budget and the insurance fund. Of particular note here is, we talked about this in August. We're going to start the year with 3 assistant corporation counsels, but you'll see that the assistant corporation counsel that says 0.02 at 55,589, right? That essentially means that that position is only funded for 1 pay period, 2 weeks, right? The expectation is at the end of 2 weeks, the attorney filling that position is going to move to personnel so that we can keep a full staff in personnel, and we're hoping to hire people in court counsel so that we'll have a full staff in court counsel in 2021 as well, right? So that's why that one says 0.02. We're really not going to have 3 assistant attorneys. That's only going to be for the first week or 2. The second thing that I think needs to be noted in there is the legal typist is unfunded. Right, that's something that we agreed to do, not only for the rest of this year, but for, some part of next year to help keep the cost down. I will tell you that if at some point during the year we do end up having funds, if we get money from the federal government or the state, right, I may come back and ask you to fund this position, particularly towards the end of the year, because we are going to have a transition. The legal typist does all the, what I'll call, all the paperwork, all of the keeping all the record keeping. And we're going to have a transition from 2021 to 2022. The secretary to court counsel can't do all of this on their own, right? That's why there have always been 2 positions. This position was actually filled, but then when COVID hit, the person who had taken the position had childcare issues and had to back out. So we've left it vacant for now. We're leaving it vacant for next year. But I really think at some point during the year, we're going to want to fill it so that we have a smoother transition into 2022. The other part of that, secretary to court counsel, why they can't do everything, they are doing a lot of this work. And if that position stays vacant for most of the year, and if money's available, I may come back and ask for a small responsibility adjustment, because that person really is doing 2 people's jobs. Has been most of this year and will be doing for, what I assume is most of next year. The last thing under personal services, the assistant corporation counsel, where it says vacant at $45,000, that's incorrect. The pay for that position is $46,125. I confirmed that with payroll. So I'm actually going to ask for a motion to amend that line. Right, and I'm going to ask for a motion to transfer $1,000 $125 from contingency to budget line A 1420 51000, assistant corp counsel from 45,000 to 46,125. I don't know if anybody is willing to make that motion.
Okay, would anybody like to make that motion to move $1,125 from contingency to A 1420.51000?
I'll make a motion to move $1,125 from line A1420.51000.
I'll second that.
I didn't hear the second. I'm sorry.
Second, Scaringi.
Thank you.
Okay, for a motion, do we need a roll call, Ken, or do we?
No, you can ask, and then if there are no's, we can double check, make sure we know who they are, and if we need to, we can do a roll call vote.
Okay,
But generally, the first time we just do a voice vote.
okay. All in favor of moving $1,125 to add to the assistant corporation counsel and make it 46,125? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Sorry, aye.
Anyone opposed? No. Okay. So we have,
Thank you very much. Yeah, that was
if
just,
council-
I think it was just a typo.
Yeah,
They
we have
weren't aware
Councilman
they changed.
Presidente on the motion and Councilman Scaringi on the second on that.
Mr.
Thank
Chairman,
you.
Yes, Councilman Scaringi, go ahead.
does that increase the total of the 2021 proposed budget in this section by $1,125? Or was that an actual just typo that doesn't impact the
No, it'll
computation?
actually, it's an actual increase.
Yes, okay, thank you.
So the pages, when approved, will have to be as amended.
Thank you, Ken.
Ken, where are you getting the money from?
Contingency,
Which contingency line?
the general contingency
Okay.
on page, what's contingency on 45?
Yeah, so it's A1990.55000.
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, has that page 45 been approved yet?
No.
45 is
then-
not, that's the association dues. Is there a different page?
46.
46, I was gonna say, yeah.
Yeah, it's paid, that's done on the last, that's like the last page to be approved.
Yeah, I'm looking at now. I don't think
That's
so.
what I thought, yeah. So that would have to be approved as amended as well, but that's not right away, obviously. I was just checking. Thank you.
Could you please repeat which contingency budget line that's coming from?
The very first one that's got 25,000 in it, A1990.55000.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, the rest of the law budget, nothing really significant. I'll point your attention to about 3/4 of the way down the page, litigation arbitration expense. Again, you'll see that to date, we've only spent under $3,000 with a $21,000 budget. There is actually a pending hearing, and not only are we going to spend everything in that line, but I suspect we're going to be under budgeted by a good deal of money. So I think leaving that for 2021 as 21,000 is probably, sometimes it's been more, sometimes it's been less. In 2019, we did it for under 10,000. This year, it's probably going to be $40,000 or $50,000. So I think 21,000 is probably somewhere in the middle. We had actually decreased that a number of years ago to, I think, 18 or 19,000, but then we were always over budget by 2,000 or 3,000. On page 27, this is something that needs to be corrected. You see the travel and training and subs, dues, and memberships. The travel and training is continuing legal education. That's required of all attorneys. Every 2 years, you have to finish at least 24 hours. Well, depending on how long you've been an attorney, 24 to 32 hours of continuing legal education. There's actually money that has been spent in that line. I just don't think that it was allocated properly. So we are correcting that, but we have spent a good deal of that money. And subs, dues, and membership, that's for New York State Bar, Broome County Bar. In particular, the New York State Bar is helpful because you get your CLE classes at a discount. So it actually ends up costing you less if you join the New York State Bar and then get your CLE classes. We've actually held the cost down a good deal on CLE this year because we've been taking a lot of free courses because they've been offered regarding COVID response. And I'm trying to think, and you see dues memberships before, in 2019, the numbers are consistent with what we have proposed for 2021, the actuals. And the last thing I always like to point out to everybody, if you look on the third line down for overtime, right, there is no overtime in my office. I would be very pleased if you would all like to pay Brian and Sharon overtime. You can add an extra $200,000 to the budget, but assuming you're not going to do that, I'd just like to remind everybody we don't charge the city for overtime. Does anybody have any questions on pages 26 and 27?
Yes, this is Councilwoman Friedman. I've got a question for you. I am wondering about the legal typist position. Why is it unfunded rather than vacant if you're hoping to fund it by the end of the year?
Well, unfunded keeps it in the budget. So I apologize. Maybe I didn't understand the question. Unfunded is specifically so that it stays in the budget, so it can be funded in the following year without having to go back through civil service, without having to amend, the budget to add a position again.
So that keeps the line open?
Yes.
Right, but then if we're hoping to fund this position by the end of the year, wouldn't that mean that we would then have to find that money from somewhere else in the budget?
Yeah, and like I said, I think that it's something that should be funded, but that's going to depend on whether or not money's available, how the year has gone. There are too many variables to fund it now. I do think that if we end up getting federal or state money and we have funds available, it's one of the positions that should be funded towards the end of the year to help with our transition from one administration to the next.
I was going to say, hopefully it's not funded from another line, it's funded from additional revenue, correct? Hopefully.
Yes. Yeah, we're not going to take money out of contingency or another line to try to fund this now. We have to see how next year looks. I just wanted to say that to everybody, so if I came back next August, everybody would say, oh, that's right, he told me that we were probably going to do that.
Right. Thanks.
At least he was
Thanks
going
for
to
the heads up. Is it, I don't see it listed in the contingency unfilled positions line. Is that correct? It's just unfunded for right now?
This is just unfunded for now.
Okay. All right. Thank you for the clarification.
And that makes the distinction, like if we're really looking at it, it's actually a good question in the sense that last week when we talked about the fire, remember there was 4 unfunded and 4 contingency. So that's the distinction. It means they just come back to us and take it from contingency. Unfunded means we actually have to have the revenue or something else to do it.
Yes.
Slightly different, even though the lines are still in the budget.
Correct.
Okay. Ken, when we approve these, do we just refer to it as amended, or do we have to refer to that amended specifically in some way?
No. And in fact, once a motion's made and the page is amended, but you can just say, make the motion to approve pages 26 and 27 as amended.
Okay.
Because the total line is going to change by 1,125, and that's the amendment.
Mr. Chairman, motion to move pages 190 through 194 and 26 and 27 as amended.
Okay, we already have 190 through 194 done. So so your motion to move 26 and 27 as amended?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Second. Joe Burns.
Okay. Okay, all in favor of moving 26 and 27 as amended?
Aye.
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 Anyone opposed?
And
Okay,
thank your
so we
staff
got
for the
Thank you very
overtime.
much.
What's that?
Thank your staff for the overtime.
Yeah. So we got Councilman Scaringi on the motion and Councilman Burns on the second for those lines. Okay, moving right along. We got Lee Rogers on the line.
Yes, hi. Want to turn my camera on?
All right, Lee, I'm assuming you're going to make a motion to increase the personal services on page 14 immediately?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
So we'll start with City Council's page here, which is page 14.
Wait, hold on.
Do these pages have to be opened?
I'd like to
Yes.
officially open pages 14, pages 24 through 25, page 31, and page 64, please. Go ahead, Lee.
Okay, so first up is City Council. This is our budget. Outside of salaries, there's really not a whole lot to play with here. We do budget for business cards and a little bit for travel and training, should you guys want to attend a conference or something. I should point out on the salary line, the personal services line, Ken, I'm not sure if you want to touch on this at all, but City Council is getting a raise this year of $152, and that is due to some legislation that was passed a few years back that ties your salaries to the CPI.
I have,
Yes.
and this will come up with the discussion regarding the mayor later as well. I have asked City Council for a number of years to please try to set the salaries for the City Council, for all elected officials, for City Council members and for the mayor, at least a year in advance of elections, so that you don't do them on an annual basis. The last City Council failed to, create a schedule for 2020 through 2023. And as a result, you're getting a CPI increase every year. If you would like to not get that increase in 2020, you cannot do that through the budget. You actually have to go and amend the code that provides for that increase. So you can, you could take it out of the budget now if you wanted to, but it's not effective until you amend the code and create salaries for, for yourselves, which I think is very awkward for 2020, 2021, through 2023, I guess, whenever this term ends.
So are there any questions for Ken or I on this page?
In the mayor's address, he asked us to not take a raise. Do we want to consider that, even if we have to go through another process to do that, or no?
I'd like to consider that, Mr. Chairman.
It's fine with me.
I think it'd be
Burns.
appropriate. I think it's appropriate for no raise. Yeah, we should not take a raise. I agree.
Mr. Chairman, if I can ask Lee or Ken, what is the cost differential between the total of our council salaries last year versus what would be budgeted for next year with the increase in CPI?
Chuck, am I right? It's just 7 times 152? It's
Yes,
just a little over $1,000, $1,000, 64.
yeah, 1064.
Yeah, it's not a big number, but
Okay. Well, it's not much, but I'm in agreement. I think it just at least shows I don't think we're overpaid by any means, but I think the mayor mentioned that. And I think it's at least shows that we're, in with the department heads and not taking an increase. We can motion to change that now, and then we would also have to do a secondary as part of the work session process.
you could motion to change that now, but then you're going to have to pass legislation to set the salaries for at least 2021 at the non-increased rate. And you got to do that through, it's a regular business meeting, it's an ordinance, you're amending the code.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
So we,
Can you and I write up now?
A motion to change that out of the budget we can do that now, though, and then amend this page as that, and then we can do that later through the legislation.
Yeah, I'm okay with that because I don't think you're going to get the legislation in. I mean, maybe if you want to, we can add it to the work session. We could do it for Wednesday night if you want to.
Well, if it doesn't have to
Otherwise,
be tonight,
it'd be
that's fine.
after
But just so
Can I
we can
just-
move this page, I think we should do that now, if we have a motion to do that.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to reduce line A1010.51000 on page 14 in the amount of $1,064 to move that to contingency.
Second.
The amount of what?
Okay, that almost paid for the increase to the legal. We almost put it back. Okay. All right, do we, that can also be a voice vote, Ken?
Yes.
Okay, all in favor of changing, reducing A110.51000 by $1,064? All in favor of that?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, so
Who
we
made the
will work,
motion in a second?
we have Councilman Scaringi on the motion and President Scanlon on the second.
Okay.
And we'll work with Lee and Grace and corporate counsel to craft up the legislation that will match that at some point. This meeting or next meeting, I guess. Okay,
This
So-
is Councilwoman Friedman. I was wondering if I could ask a question about a different line on this page.
sure.
In the office supplies line, why is that a revenue so far this year of $92?
We must have credited something. Let me see if I can find out what that was for.
That might actually be the business cards, since we had a good handful
I was
of
just
council members.
about to say, wasn't there a reduction in the cost as well when we changed the format of the business cards, Lee? Was that last year?
Yes.
Remember the printing style? It was less
Yes.
embossed, it was more flat, and I think it didn't have any color, so that was a reduction in cost.
Right, and we changed vendors as well.
Correct.
But I think that still doesn't explain how we made revenue off of those. Unless, am I misreading this? I have encumbered or expended through October says minus 92.4 or $92.43. I mean,
So we would-
You're correct in your thought, Aviva. It doesn't necessarily mean it's revenue. It means it's a debit
Some sort.
balance on expenses.
Does Lori's line pick up our phones and stuff? Because I don't see that in here. That was just a curiosity.
So did we have that question answered or what's going on?
Actually, here's what we got. We ended up getting the return of that amount of money from Broome County. Is that where we used to get the business cards from before?
Yes.
Right.
So we got a credit back from them for that amount of money.
okay, that explains it. Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions on this page?
If there's no other questions, since we did an amendment, why don't we go ahead and approve page 14 as amended? If we get a motion to do that.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Okay, all in favor to move page 14 as amended?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, so we had Councilman Scaringi on the motion and Councilwoman Resinetti on the second for page 14. Okay, go ahead, Lee, to the clerk's office.
Okay. So it's up to you, but it is 6 PM if you want to jump over to the work session and then we can tackle this afterwards.
President Scanlon, would you like to jump right to the work session right on time, or do you want to and come right back to page 24 when we come back?
Why don't we stay on schedule with the work session right now, Phil, if you don't mind?
Okay. Okay. So I'd like to take a motion to adjourn this portion of the budget hearing to go to the work session.
So moved.
So,
On Riley.
Okay.
second.
Councilwoman Riley, motion, Councilman Scringy second to adjourn. I guess it would budget meeting number 3 technically. And we will go now to the work session.
All right, I'd like to start the work session for Monday, October 19th. We already done the Pledge of Allegiance, so I won't do that again. Could we have a roll call, please, Lee?
Yes. Councilman Scaringi,
Present.
Councilwoman Resnetti,
Present.
Councilwoman Riley,
Present.
Councilwoman Friedman,
Present.
Councilman Burns,
Present.
Councilman Strong,
Present.
and President Scanlon.
Present.
That's all here.
All right, do we have Charlie Pearsall on the line?
Yes, here I am.
All right, Charlie. Tell us about RL 20-201, please.
Yes, the board has asked me to come in front of the owners, and in this case, the council, to ask for 2 transfers in the 2020 budget. The first one is for insurance on J8130-54300 in the amount of $32,000. We have sufficient funding available in the chemicals line because we're spending less on methanol due to favorable pricing. So I would recommend it come from that line, which is 54150. And we also have a $2,000 increase in the furniture line, which is 52200. And that is driven by the library we have for the materials that's being transferred over to us now for the new buildings and equipment, and that's to properly store it and protect it.
Questions or comments? Hearing none. Bear with me 1 second. I lost the page.
How's that?
Thank you, Charlie. I appreciate it.
Can you
Questions or
guys hear
comments
me?
Thank
again?
you. Have a good night.
Yeah, we
Can you
can,
guys
Do I
hear
have
me?
a question?
we can hear you, Tom.
Excellent.
Right.
Thank you, Chuck.
All right, thank you, Charlie.
Thank you.
Shager, tell us about RL 120-202, please.
Which one is that one, Tom? Off the top of my head, I don't remember which one it is.
Contract with Aetna Insurance for medical coverage advantage plan.
Okay, for all city councilmen, we have 2 different types of insurance. We have insurance for active people and ones that are under 65. And retirees retire and they qualify for our health insurance. When they turn 65, they go on a Medicare Advantage plan. This plan over the years has been very expensive. We hired a consultant, NFP. Their representative is on the call with us tonight. His name is Tom Soroka. We went out and marketed our business very hard, and we got pretty good rates. And I'm submitting to you that recommending that we change from Excelis Insurance for the Medicare Advantage plan to Aetna. And I'll let Tom and the guys from Aetna go through the presentation so you understand what we're doing and what they have to offer us. Tom, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Chuck. Hi, everybody. Thanks for having us in. We're going to try to keep this clear and concise. As Chuck mentioned, we were giving the objective to help with finding a lower cost Medicare group plan for your 65 plus retirees with the goal of providing at least as good or better benefits for lower cost. In addition, I think it's always very important to make certain that everyone have access to the plan equally or as well as your current Excelis plan. We did a lot of work through this. Heather is also on the call with me. She's one of our lead account management associates and works with me very closely in providing the marketing that took place and did an awful lot of work to ask each of the market participants, Aetna, United Healthcare, Humana, Excelis, and so on, to provide the residents of the city of Binghamton who are retired employees a great plan for lower monies than what they're paying today. I think, Heather, is there a way we can share with the folks some of that analysis? Basically what we did is it really came down to, and I won't spend too much time on all the different details associated with it, but I can tell you that Excelis was at about $206 for a very nice plan. We went through a number of different carrier proposals. I've worked with Aetna in the past successfully. We were able to bring your monthly Medicare group plan rate down from $206 to $120, while at the same time providing better benefits in some cases, and certainly not lower benefits in any case. We also have with us Liz Sampo and Rob Gilmartin from Aetna. And they're going to help us to verify these facts, one, and two, to answer any questions you may have. So is there something we can share with everyone, or is there information we can provide so you can see it in paper form or in electronic form?
Tommy, let me speak up here for a second. Lee, did you send out everybody the comparison of what Excelis used to offer and what Aetna's going to offer?
Yes, we forwarded that out right after you sent it.
Excellent.
Okay.
So you all have a copy of this.
Tom, so if you or Liz want to walk through, and I wouldn't go through each line item, but anything that has a difference or there may perceive to be something different.
Liz, I guess if I could just say that the current Blue Cross Excelis program has an annual out-of-pocket maximum of $1,250 per participant per year. Aetna's program actually is $750 in maximum out-of-pocket per year per participant. This is probably the primary difference between the two plans. We asked Aetna to mirror as closely as they possibly could. And in every case, they mirrored, or in the case of the out-of-pocket, actually had a lower out-of-pocket for members, so therefore a better benefit. So I
Yes,
guess,
that's
Liz,
right.
go ahead, Liz, sorry. I would ask you, Liz, if you don't mind. And Liz worked very hard on getting all of the things matched so that your retirees are receiving the benefits that they currently enjoy, and wanted to make sure we continue to provide that level of benefit going forward.
That's right. Can you hear me okay?
Certainly can.
Yeah, yes, we can hear you. Yes.
Oh, okay, super. So if you do have that benefit comparison that Heather put together so nicely, right, you can see that in every category, the Aetna plan is going to be equal to or better, like Tom described, in every category for benefit coverage. We've been doing group Medicare Advantage for over 20 years at Aetna. We have many clients, millions of members, and we do have the flexibility to be able to match plan designs very, very closely, and that's what we've done. The one area that we are improving for members is that out-of-pocket maximum. So we'll improve that down to $750 rather than $1,250, so that retirees would never be more than $750 out of pocket for medical expenses during the course of the year. Otherwise, everything under the plan is going to be equivalent, copay, or actuarially equivalent across the board. So nobody would have a lesser benefit in any area.
What questions might you as the council have?
Are questions or comments from anyone?
Hi, this is Councilwoman. Thank you for this coverage spreadsheet. It helps us understand a lot more. I do have a question.
Is there a calendar year max for our Medicare beneficiaries in
Yes,
terms of,
yep.
okay, what is
So
the calendar year max?
are you saying in terms of benefit or out of pocket?
Benefit and out-of-pocket coverage. Well, no, out-of-pocket is $750, but in
Right.
terms of the coverage per year, yes.
No, there's no benefit maximum. The plan will continue to pay whatever the covered benefits are, unlimited.
Okay. And then secondly, someone is making noise on the mic. I'm having a hard time. Can you mute? Thank you. When we look at our network of providers, are they similar so that the beneficiaries will not find themselves having to find new practitioners?
Yes, that's an excellent question. Thank you. And something that's always important when you're making the decision and when you're communicating, when we're both communicating out to our new members. So there won't be any issue with transitioning the members. They'll be able to work with their same Medicare providers that they're working with right now. We've proposed a program that's called Extended Service Area PPO. What that means is your retirees will have access to all Medicare providers nationwide. So it doesn't even matter if the Medicare provider that they're seeing is part of our network with Aetna or not part of our network. Members will have the exact same benefit. So it's kind of a little bit different than what they have now. They have a lower benefit if they see providers that are outside a network. But under our plan, they won't. They'll be able to see any Medicare provider.
Okay. Thank you. I think that concludes my questions. Thank you.
Are there questions or comments on this?
Yes, this is Councilwoman Friedman.
Go ahead, Councilwoman.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is actually a question for Chuck. I was wondering why this is expedited.
Sorry about that, Evita. I was talking with my phone muted. It's being expedited because in order to get this thing started by January 1st and get everyone to have their cards and get everybody enrolled, it's going to take a while to do this. And if I push it off till November, it would not happen in January 1st.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, I think it's a point I'd like to make, and I think when it comes to retirees, we want to make certain that people are comfortable, that they're getting their questions answered, and that we're transitioning people smoothly. And there's a good company that's done great work in this area, but if we get off on the wrong foot and have people waiting for cards to the point where they're getting them in mid-January, that doesn't work. We want to make sure that whenever we're putting plans in place, that we have people's cards in hand, ready to use, questions answered, so that everyone feels good about what is happening.
Mr. President, quick.
Councilman Strong, go ahead.
I just want to say I've worked with Tom's group before. They do a great job, and I know his group and Aetna and Chuck have worked extremely hard on this. So I appreciate all of their hard work. And this is also going to save, I mean, sometimes in this world you can't ever come up with a win-win, but this really is one. It's going to save the city a lot of money, and it's going to provide our people with better coverage. And I just think so I appreciate everybody's work on this. But I just wanted to reiterate what's already been said. I mean, especially when you're talking about prescriptions and things like that. If you don't have that card, you have a temporary card, or you're scrambling for it, it's a real problem. It puts people in uncomfortable position, and if we can avoid that, I think we should try to avoid that at all costs. And I think it's a no-brainer at this point because of the win-win to do it anyway. So if we can just get it done and let guys get back to the paperwork of getting all these people's enrollments done, then I think that's wise to get it right done this week.
Thank you, Phil. I appreciate that. And I'm not quite sure if you've received what really is being saved by the city, but it's significant. And I think it's important to recognize that the markets have changed drastically over the last 10 to 15 years. And we're able to take advantage now of national prominence that this carrier has. Excellus has approximately 100,000 members on group Medicare plans. Aetna has 2.5 million members on Aetna Medicare plans. So it's important to recognize that spread and that ability to work nationally and at a price that saves the city a substantial six-figure number.
Mr. Soroka, this is Councilman Scanlon. What's the dollar amount we're saving? The city saving?
Well, we have 440 members each month, currently paying $206. We're taking them from 206 to 120. It accounts for close to $450,000.
Oh, that is a big number. You're 100% right on that. It's like Phil said, it's really a no-brainer. I don't think you're saving money and the benefits didn't change, so it's a good deal. And then thanks for the work you and your group put in.
We appreciate that, Mr. Scanlon.
Anybody have a question on RL 20 or 120-202, please?
Tom, this is Chuck. I got a couple of things that I want to make sure that everybody understands because I think it's important. The first one I'll ask Liz to answer. Can you explain to them why you're able to do such a low price compared to what we've been currently paying and how the federal government works Medicare for you guys?
Sure, I'd be happy to. So as Tom mentioned, Aetna has a national footprint with over 2 million Medicare Advantage members nationally. So that alone affords us the ability, just scope of number of members affords us the ability to have reduced pricing. But one of the most important things is our star rating. So the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services has a quality grading program they call the CMS Stars rating program. And under that program, Aetna gets some of the highest ratings available, 4.5 out of 5 stars this year. And what that does is it allows the federal government to provide higher reimbursements to Aetna and higher bonuses to Aetna. And those bonuses, Aetna cannot take those for profit or put back into Aetna's pockets. That money goes by law back into the program, either in additional services or lower rates. So the better job we do keeping our members healthy, happy, satisfied under the plan, getting all of their preventive care, the higher the star rating we get, the higher the bonuses and reimbursements we get from the federal government, and the more consistently low our rates can be. So that's those are just some of the big reasons that our rates are very, very reasonable. But the rates that you see from us are not very different from our other upstate New York clients. It's that we're able to do this on a national scope.
The other couple of questions I wanted City Council to hear is I've tried to figure out we're going to get some kickbacks from the retirees. There's no doubt on this. The first one is fear and fear itself, which I'll have to deal with that because they've been in with Excellus pretty much their whole life. Number two is, can you explain something about the drug card? Because not the drug card, but if someone's on a more expensive drug today and they've been on it for 2 years, Aetna's not going to go back and say, no, you got to go through the whole process again, correct?
Right, that's exactly right. The Aetna Medicare prescription drug plan has what they call a transition of care program. And so there were a number of levers and ways that we're very successful at transitioning new members into our plan. And we do transition, tens or hundreds of thousands of members every year into our plans very, very successfully. And so members who are on a drug now that might need a transition their drug, we're going to be talking about that during our education sessions that we're offering to hold for the members conference calls, webinars. We're also going to be communicating that transition in our member materials that go out, and we have award-winning member materials that are easy to understand and really communicate the bullet points of the important facts. And one of those important things is transitioning the prescription drugs. So nobody's drugs will fall through the cracks. Everyone will have a full transition. We're offering an open formulary. That means all Part D drugs will be covered, so nobody will find that their drug's not covered at all under the plan either.
You know, there's also something else I'd like to add to that, if I may. You may know that Aetna and CVS are actually together. They've merged. And I think what's exciting about this is that when looking at your active plan, these are for your active employees, we find that a lot of medication utilization is happening at the CVS pharmacies. And just because they retire doesn't mean they stop going to CVS. And what I'd like to say is that going forward, we're going to keep a close eye on this. And because CVS and Aetna have pricing advantages, I'm actually hoping that this helps us going forward to build a pharmacy program that actually will benefit not only retirees, but the city continuously.
Good point, Tom. Yep. We'll be looking at the reporting. We'll be able to provide reports to you about utilization, and we'll be able to help you in the future strategize on if you want to make changes to your retiree benefit plan according to the utilization or the need of the program specifically. So that's exciting things to come, and certainly with the merger with CVS and Aetna, very exciting things on the prescription drug front.
Does anybody else have any other
questions? Questions on RL 20-202? All right, Chuck, you can start out. It's about 20-203. It's a contract with Excellus for dental and vision administration. And Chuck, does this one need to be expedited also?
No, that one does not have to be expedited, but Tom and Liz and Bob, thank you very much.
Thank you all.
For your
Thank
exciting
you.
year.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you.
Before we let go of Aetna, should we be asking about the term, and do we want to discuss that while they're here?
No,
Right
we
now,
don't,
it's
we don't
1
have to,
year.
we don't have to deal with that on that one. We have to deal with city council on that, Ken.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you, Liz and Rob. Thank you, Heather. Thank you, council.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Tom, a couple of things that I wanted to talk to you about on this thing is when we do the budget, we're going to have to do a change to the budget because this was not, part of this was incorporated in the budget, but not all of it. A couple of real good aspects of this program is since we hired NFP, the guy's name is Tom Soroka, about 4 years ago, I think, maybe 3 years ago. He has worked diligently. At one time, we were paying $460 a month for this insurance. He's gone out and marketed it, and he's a Binghamton resident. He cares about taxes, and he's been very helpful here. I did not get the final numbers on this till Friday, so I'm sorry that I'm expediting it, but I called the mayor on Friday when we finally made a decision and said, this is what we're doing. Excellus, as you can see from the brochure I sent you, they would only come down to $150.
Chuck, let me interrupt for 1 second. It makes me wonder what the guy who was representing the city of Binghamton in this area did before, because they all have access to the same carriers. They all have access to everybody. So basically, they're telling me the guy that was handling this before wasn't doing anything. For this broker to go out and find these savings, it's ludicrous to me. It wasn't done before.
No, not necessarily. The marketplace has changed, and there's certain promotions that are flexible based upon the reimbursement and things.
Angel, you're wrong about that because this market only goes up. You're 100% wrong about that. I deal with this at work. Market only goes up.
No, I beg to differ.
Tom,
All right, well,
Tom, let me try to explain this to you so you understand it. I tried to ask her to explain it to you, and I think she did if you were really listening to it. They get graded by how they handle Medicare claims. Aetna does a better job than Excellus, so they get better reimbursements. And they get bonuses and things like that, which helps reduce the cost. The other thing that I made sure of, because before we're going to make this change, is every company that we talk to, it doesn't matter who wins the election, whether it's the Republicans or Democrats, they basically say both people are happy with how this Medicare Advantage plan has been working over the years. And since it's all part of the old, use the ACA terminology, it keeps getting better and better because they're figuring out how to make it work better. And by making them, before they used to only have to belong to New York State. Now they can go all US, which gives them a bigger clientele base to hopefully control costs better. That's number one. And number two is,
Chuck, you're not hearing me though, because all these brokers have access to the same plans. And to go out and find these savings is, I mean, it doesn't make any sense to me that this guy wasn't, the broker before wasn't finding these savings. Because that's a hell of a savings right there.
it's a huge savings, but even last year, the best I could get from these guys was $186. Now,
Right.
part of what I told them, and they may have been, playing the game here, saying, okay, I'm not going to come in with a low cost because I know you're just using me as a benchmark for Excellus, okay? But this year I told them we will change because we're hurting for money. And when we did that, all of a sudden the competition became enormous for the city's business.
Right. I mean, what I found even at the home is that sometimes if you tell them you're willing to shop, like Chuck just said, I'm not saying they're business, but NFP's got a national footprint too. And sometimes if you let them know that you're willing to move, they'll move too. So I think it was a combination of all those things.
All right, let's move on.
I mean, just so you all know, there will be retirees that will be upset just for the fear of changing, okay? And you may get a phone call, but they're saving $250, I think, a year, each one of them.
This is
Okay.
Councilwoman Wiley. I do think I was very happy to hear that they are willing to help them if there are medication-related changes impacted by this change, because that's usually the primary concern when moving from insurance to insurance.
100%, and I was not going to move this if they weren't willing to do this.
Thank you.
All right,
Sorry,
Chuck, can we move on? Chuck, you weren't done with 203, were you?
No, the next one is lifetime benefits used to handle our internal, meaning active employees, dental and vision plan. They got bought out by Excellus, and they are getting out of that business. And I sort of thought that we were going to be in trouble finding someone to do that business for us, but Excellus said they will do it. And they'll keep the cost the same for this year, and next year they're going to raise it to 11 cents per person per month, which isn't huge overall. That one does not have to be expedited. As long as I get that signed off and approved in November, that'll be fine.
Questions or comments on 203?
Chuck, is anything changing in terms of the coverages with this?
No, they're keeping everything the same, Angela. I won't say it's going to be that way 3 years from today, but right now it is. They said they would keep it the same for 2 years.
Other questions or comments?
Tom, before we move on, Ken, are you still out there? Ken?
Yes.
You want to explain to them how we think we might want to write this RL up for tomorrow, for Wednesday?
So the first question is, do we want to build in a renewal? Right, obviously, a lot of times working with these companies, they're happier knowing that, you know, they hopefully will have a long-term relationship. Obviously, if the numbers aren't good, Chuck or whoever the controller is going to do the exact same thing again and go shop it over. But do we want to renew it, or do we want to do this, you know, on a year-by-year basis? It doesn't mean we can't back out of it, right? It would be a renewal on mutual agreement, but it wouldn't come back to council every year.
And what Ken and I had talked about, let's just say that right now the price is $120. If we're within 5% of that next year, and I feel comfortable with that number, or whoever's in my position, they can just renew the contract for another year. So is there a percentage break that we can put into the legislation that council feels confident with without us coming back every year?
What's the concern with you coming back to council every year? What's the concern about that?
I don't necessarily say there's a concern. It's just the, I don't want to say it.
It's an uncertainty.
Yeah.
It tends to make companies a little more nervous. That's all. Most of our contracts have some renewal period, but it's up to council.
So I don't see a problem coming back to council every year, but if the other people think there is, then speak up, please.
This is
Mr. President.
Councilwoman Friedman.
Yes, Councilwoman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to echo what you said. Is there any drawback from our perspective about renewing it every year? Because it seems that there's, it seems like I can understand from the company's perspective, they might have uncertainty, but from our perspective, is there any drawback?
Well, uncertainty can cause higher prices. That's the concern.
Correct. Mr. President?
Yes, Councilman Scringy, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yeah, so I think it's important to make a distinction here. I'm fairly certain, and Chuck, please tell me if I'm wrong, but the words "come back to council" does not mean lack of council review or keeping council informed. In situations like this, some short-term extension on time incentivizes the firm to keep costs more proportionate, which also benefits us. So given that reality, particularly with the economic environment we're in, and I obviously can't speak for anyone else, but I'm comfortable moving that forward with that in the RL.
Chuck, it creates a lot. Let's assume we did an RFP out there next year for this health insurance, the same thing we're talking about. It creates a lot of work for you as a comptroller?
Yes. I've been doing this since beginning of September. I can't tell you how many meetings I've had with multiple places talking about this, learning about it. But here's the advantage is, if they come to me next year and say, we'll give it to you for 122, and I can tell them, okay, on the spot, I don't have to go to council, it's going to make it easier on all parties to move this thing forward.
Council President?
Yes, Councilwoman Riley, please.
Yes. So what are the terms of adding for the contract regarding the Medicare Advantage plan? What type of language is going into that RL?
Say that again, Councilman Riley.
So this is a similar renewal process to the contract we're negotiating or initiating with Aetna, correct? What are the terms that are being written into that contract or that RL?
They're going to be a one-year contract.
As well. So
yes.
what is why the impetus, why the concern about this particular enrollment, this insurance, this RL, compared to the one we spoke about a minute ago?
Well, the one that you talked about with Excelis is a 2-year deal.
Right.
Okay. We did it for 3 years.
Right. And Mr. President, if I can note that that was noted earlier in the discussion. All right, so Aetna is looking to keep prices at a bare minimum the same for 2 years. So putting this time extension kicker in the discussion of the current contract, again, is going to provide that levity moving forward beyond the 1-year term.
Chuck, is 5% increase, is that enough to function with as far as your?
Yeah, if it was higher than 5%, I would want to come to you guys.
All right. Well, I can certainly, and everybody else speak up here, I can certainly live with 5% increase. And you would renew it as far as the comptroller renewing it. I would have no issue with that, with a 5% increase cap. Everybody else speak up, please. Anybody else have an opinion on that? I guess no opinion on that. I guess we can move forward with that in mind then. Chuck,
So
you can.
This is Councilwoman Riley again. So we will see the amended language for this RL prior to the 2-week review and voting, correct?
I believe
That's
so,
for
Ken.
Tucker.
That's for
for
Ken,
Tucker,
but
I'm not sure what language I mean, the agreement with Aetna will either say that it can be renewed or not. I apologize. I'm not sure what the question is.
The question is, because you are adding additional stipulations to this rule that we're discussing verbally, will we see the final document in writing before we host another set of work sessions, just so we can review it in anticipation of the next work session and voting session and business meeting? Because this is not an expedited RL, but I would like to see the proposed language.
Okay, Chuck, isn't Aetna an expedited RL?
yes, it is an expedited RL.
Yeah, I can have the language for you tomorrow morning. It's drafted. I just needed to know the answer to this question.
Right. And Excelis, the one we're talking about right now, is not, and that's the one that will have the amended terms and the additional language regarding if there happens to be a 5% increase, it returns to council. So I'm specifically talking about RL 20-203.
Councilwoman Riley, I believe what you're asking, Ken will have that to you in the morning. We were talking about it today. The RL's pretty much written up. We just had to answer a couple questions of how we wanted to do it. And he'll put it, anything over 5% would have to come back to council.
Okay, so we will see that language tomorrow as well.
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions on 2203? All right, thanks, Ken. Thanks, Chuck. Is Miss Burling out there?
Hi, yes, I am.
Hi, how are you? Can you tell us about 20-204, please?
Yes, absolutely. We are hoping to enter into a service agreement with CNY Fair Housing to provide housing rights and assistance available education for completing a section of our Cities Rise grant requirement. So they will be hopefully preparing the training, coordinating training, and advertising as well. We have 5 different educational topics, and we have a list of groups that we're targeting. It's also going to be open to the public. So it's a $15,000 service agreement for this work that will be funded through our city's RISE grant.
Questions or comments, please? No questions on RL 204.
Okay. And I did ask for it to be expedited so we could get it started.
Why does it need to be expedited, Juliet?
So we can get it going.
Okay. All right. Well,
So
I get it.
Good. Okay. We had to put it on hold because of, COVID issues, and we're ready now. So.
I see. Okay. All right. Are there any questions on 204? Go ahead, Councilwoman Riley.
Yes, hi, Juliet, how are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Good. Are you able to share with us the tentative calendar and topics that will be shared under this grant and the public?
I have the topics. I don't have a schedule yet. We're hoping to hold them, each topic to be held for a month. It might be shorter than that. We had originally scheduled 4 in-person training, sessions. So now that they're online, we may be able to just do that a little quicker. But the topics are basically, one is regarding building code and construction feedback, positives and negatives that people are encountering, housing safety issues. Let's see, I wrote this all out. We're looking for immediate concerns and areas that we can focus resources on. Housing availability and resource availability, what resources are available for tenants and for homeowners right now. And then housing and tenants' rights, which is something that we offer, but we didn't offer it this year. Normally we hold those sessions also. Let's see, and then an educational topic regarding neighborhood needs. So it's one thing for us to say that they need adequate housing, and people do need that, but there are also additional needs. So,
now, are these going to be smaller and more interactive? Or are they webinar based? Will there be a cap?
Well, they're currently webinar. Well, they were designed to be in person with an activity. So right now I've asked for that, the education to be designed as an online webinar. And we're hoping to have it as interactive as possible with online surveys and answering questions and using the chat section. So this is where CNY is going to use their expertise. They said they have a format for online webinars that are good at collecting information, not just presenting it. So.
Perfect. So there will not be a cap?
No, not if it's online. If it's in person, we'll of course.
Perfect.
We'd have to have it. Yeah, absolutely.
Other questions on 204?
Yeah, it's Joe
Yes,
Burns.
Oh.
Councilman Burns here. How will you advertise?
Well, again, that's something that CNY will do for us. We want to use all forms of marketing, not just online, but mailers and flyers. We have in the agreement, we have a targeted list of groups that we're hoping to work with. I could read them off unless you have it in front of you. We're looking to work with the Broome Tioga NAACP, the American Civic Association, Action for Older Persons, the different municipal senior centers, I think there's 4, YWCA, Catholic Charities, Fairview Recovery, Addiction Center, Broome County, Southern Tier AIDS Program, Southern Tier Independence Center, Faith Streets, north of Maine, and the Lee Barta Community Center. So we will be creating online marketing as well as flyers and mailings and sending information to these groups specifically.
Awesome.
To help get the word out.
Thank you.
Any suggestions? I'm good. I always use them.
I'm sure we'll all support and spread the word as well.
Excellent.
Councilwoman Freeman, do you have a question?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I was wondering if there will be any incentives for community members to participate in the program, besides, of course, the knowledge that they will gain from this.
Not specifically. No. Sorry, that really wasn't budgeted into this. This was an educational session, not a community engagement, which is what we held previously. We used that data to help target our grant applications. So this is mostly education and bringing resources to people.
Okay, we'll just have to advertise it real well then. So
yeah, yeah. If it was in person, we could provide babysitting and snacks and things like that. But a webinar, I'm just not sure how that would work.
Right, that makes sense. Yeah, everything is different now.
Right. Everything's different now.
Right. All right, thanks.
Yep, absolutely.
Other questions on 204? Thank you, Ms. Berling.
All right, thank you, guys.
Leader Grace, can you read pending legislation, please?
Yes. Okay, so for pending legislation, we just have 4 items here. 196 is amending the 2020 sewer budget to fund serial bond interest due to refinancing of the 2012 bond. The next one is 198, which is an application and acceptance of the Edward Byrd Memorial Justice Assistance Program for FY 2020. 199, authorizing the sale of 106 Park Ave. 200, amending the 2020 budget to pay for the demolition of 34 Burr Ave. And just a friendly reminder to everyone, you're all sponsors on all the legislation that was presented tonight and until you let us know otherwise. So if you want your name off anything, just remember to email Grace or I, okay?
Thank you, Lee. All right, so the public hearing on the budget. I talked to Lee today. The press has said lead time, and Lee needs 5 days. It's going to be advertised for 5 days, if I'm saying that right, Lee, to make it work. So the public hearing is going to be on the 27th, which is a week from tomorrow. We'll have to have a special meeting. Then we'll vote. I think our last day to vote on this is the 30th of October. Is that correct on the budget?
And a reminder,
Chuck, you know that?
and you need to sign it out. There has to be a sign out sheet for legislation, just like all legislation going to the floor. So we need to do that, and then you have to give 5 days public notice before the hearing. So you would have to approve it tomorrow night if you're going to have it on the 27th.
All right, Lee, I'll have Lee, you get a hold of the council people and make sure that gets approved for the 27th, please.
Right.
So my plan from there, so that the public hearing by the 27th, the vote will be to approve the budget by city council will be on the 29th. The days we're kind of squeezed into here because the 30th, I believe, is the last day we can vote on this budget. So I want to have the vote on the 29th.
This is Councilwoman Friedman. Can I ask a clarifying question?
Sure.
Okay, so thank you, Mr. President. So the 27th, you said, I don't have a calendar in front of me, but that's a week from today, so that's a Monday?
It's a Tuesday. It's a week from tomorrow.
A week from tomorrow. Okay, so it's a Tuesday, and that will be a special meeting, and then the meeting on the 29th, is that will also be a special meeting?
To approve the budget, yes.
Okay, so let's say if the public hearing is on the 27th, how would we then go about incorporating any appropriate public amendments? Would we then, at the meeting on the 29th, we would do the reconsideration process where someone who voted in the majority would have to make a motion to bring a budget line back to the floor, and then we would make all the amendments then and then vote on it on the 29th?
That's correct. We could do it that 29th. We could have, in that meeting, we can certainly discuss something else if somebody wants to try to open a page back up. Sure.
Okay.
You can
And
also
if there
discuss it on
are,
the
let's say,
27th.
I'm sorry, Ken, what did you say?
I mean, you can also discuss it on the 27th. You know, after the public hearing, you can certainly, you know, have your meeting.
Right. That's fine. We do it there too, Ken. That's fine. We can. I got a feeling it's going to be a long public comment section, but we certainly can do it after the public comment section on 27th or the 29th. It doesn't matter either way.
This is Councilwoman
Or
Riley.
or both potentially?
I'm sorry.
I was just asking, could we theoretically do it on both days as well? Like if something
If we
comes up.
Yeah, if we needed to, we certainly could, Councilwoman Friedman.
Okay. All right, thank you. I just wanted to make sure, because from reading the budget process, it really seems like there's not much structured in there to incorporate the public's opinion. So I'm glad to hear that there's at least, I mean, I know the timeline is crunched together, but there's at least a few days where we can incorporate what our constituents' comments are.
Councilwoman Riley, you have a question?
Yes, thank you, Council President. I just wanted to say that I do appreciate the date set aside to vote, separate from the public comment period. I do agree with you that we may have a lot of comments and feedback, and it will give us some time after hearing the public to deliberate and come back on the 29th to make amendments and vote as you suggested. Thank you.
You're welcome. I will take a motion to adjourn this meeting so we get back into the budget hearings.
So moved.
So moved.
Councilwoman Riley.
Okay, we're adjourned. Lee, I'll turn it over. I'll turn it over back to you, Phil.
Okay. All right, everyone, we're going to take about 5 or 6 minutes right now to take a quick break, and we so 6:52. Can we be back here just before 7 o'clock?
Okay. Thanks.
Okay. Lee, you're going to leave the lines open, right? So you can self-mute. Everybody should self-mute themselves.
Correct. Everyone should self-mute. I'll set the timer for 5 minutes. That works for you?
Okay, we'll take a roll call then. I'll see you guys in a couple minutes.
All right. Thank you. Let's see who's back in. It's been about 6 minutes.
I'm here, Lee.
Thank you. Grace, can you turn on your screen? Yeah.
Galen's back.
Thank you.
I'm back, Lee.
How are you? Turn the camera.
Hi, this is Councilwoman Friedman. I'm back and I have a warm cup of coffee, so I'm in a good mood too.
Jealous.
Well, as long as we're telling everything, I'm back with another glass of wine, so everybody's happy.
I knew Scanlon was gonna talk about
I'm here.
Whatever you guys need to approve the clerk's budget is fine with us.
Ken Frank is back.
Thanks, Ken.
Chuck is back.
Councilman Strawn, whenever you're ready.
I'm not sure he's back, Lee.
There we go.
Everybody here?
I think so.
All right, Lee, we take a roll call for us to restart. I guess we'll call it budget meeting 3A or 4, whatever you want to call it.
All right. So Councilman Scaringi,
Present.
Councilwoman Resnetti,
Present.
Councilwoman Riley,
Present.
Councilwoman Friedman,
Present.
Councilman Burns,
He's here.
I'm right here.
We'll take it.
Councilman Strawn,
Present. That was good.
President Scanlon.
Present.
That's all 7.
Okay, everyone, thanks. We had already opened all the pages for Lee's section, so we approved page 14 already, and we're on page 24 and 25, Lee, so go ahead with that.
Right, thank you. Okay. So on at the top of page 24, we have personal services. So this part's a little interesting as it relates to city council. So the city clerk and the deputy clerk are in sort of a unique situation here where our salaries are actually set directly by city council. And this year we were hoping to ask for a salary adjustment, but with everything going on, we felt it would be really irresponsible to take a raise this year. And so we requested no increase for 2021. However, that being said, I do understand that our positions, the city clerk and deputy clerk, there's an argument to be made that we are substantially underpaid from where we should be. And should any money come in, I mean, we definitely might. We'll definitely want to talk to you guys and sit down and see if we can work out an increase of some sort or some sort of hourly adjustment. But I didn't want you guys to be blindsided when and if we do come back and ask for a raise, because it is something that we were hoping to do this year, but with the pandemic and revenues down across the board, we just didn't feel that this was the right time to ask for one. But I mean, part of that, I'd like to talk about this for a minute or two, but part of the reason we think a raise would be important is because it has been difficult retaining employees. We've been through a lot of deputy clerks in the last decade here. I've lost track, but I think Grace is probably our 10th deputy clerk in the last 10 years, which is pretty astounding. I'm actually the longest serving city clerk, I think, maybe since Howard Dugo, who was serving, 20 years ago at this point. So there's been a lot of turnover in the office. It's hard to keep consistency. And when you compare our salaries to other clerks in upstate New York of cities that are of a similar size, we don't even compare to those. When you compare our salaries with other clerks right here in Broome County, we don't stack up very well to those either. And even within City Hall, I mean, you guys are getting a pretty good deal on me because I am the cheapest, I'm the lowest paid department head in City Hall by a bit of a landslide at this point. If you transferred my salary to other departments, oftentimes I come in at even below the deputy's rate. For example, and I don't mean to pick on one department over another, but if you pick a department at random, the Economic Development Department, all of their employees, they have somebody helping out with HUD right now, but I mean, they have basically all of their employees make more than me at this point. So I'm a department head who is really quite cheap at this point. And I'm happy to talk to all of you individually about that. Other clerks in Broome County, even in Vestal, for example, they have more staff than we do. Their clerk makes about 15 grand more than I do. And they have half the population of the city of Binghamton. So I just wanted to touch on that. But for right now, we're not asking for a raise. And then also here in our personal services line, you'll notice the senior account clerk is unfunded for now. This is sort of similar to what Ken was talking about with his legal typist, where if we do come across the money from the federal government, there's a chance we'll come back to city council and try to talk to you guys about staffing in the clerk's office, because we really are working on a bare bones staff right now. And any questions on the personal services?
Yeah, Lee, I have a question.
Yes, this is.
I assume the bingo inspector isn't being paid now because there's no bingo, right?
Chuck, I'm not sure if you want to touch on that, but I know the bingo inspector did voluntarily forgo his paycheck for some.
That's all I need then. I'm good, thanks.
Okay.
President Scanlon, I didn't quite hear you.
Chuck, I was asking about the bingo inspector. I assume he's not being paid right now because there's no bingo.
You can say that and you cannot say that. I mean, he's got a job. There's a lot of people over the last 9 months that have had to work from home and couldn't work from home and got paid. So,
Okay, all right. I'm just curious. It's not a ton of money. I just was curious. I thought on it.
he did elect to not take money for a while, but then he asked for it back when he thought he was going to go back to work.
Yep. All right. I'm just curious. That's all. It's not a ton of money. I'm just curious. Thank you.
This is Councilwoman Riley.
Yes.
Go ahead.
So this senior account clerk that is unfunded, has it been, how long have you been without this position?
It's been a while now. It's been about 2 years. We did finally get this position approved to have the job posted so we could start interviewing people. Unfortunately, it was approved and posted right around March 1st of this year. And then once the pandemic hit, we were on a hiring freeze, so we weren't able to actually interview anyone for the position, and now it's unfunded for 2021.
Thank you.
Councilman Burns, I think you deserve a raise.
Thank you. But then there's not much else on this page here.
Well, I
Are there
just
any
have,
other questions?
yes, I do have a few more questions. This is Councilwoman Riley again.
Sure.
So the professional services, translation services for meetings to ensure that we are compliant with ADA requirements, particularly these web-based. Have we been transcribing what we are saying for the public? And in what meetings have we been using this service that we've expended $155 so far?
So the translation services, so that's, like you said, that's sort of a state mandated service that we need to prepare for. We did use a translator for a wedding that came in. And that was actually a hearing impaired person that needed an interpreter. But yes, that is money that we set aside every year. Typically, we don't end up spending the money, but because it's state mandated, we want to make sure it's there in case someone comes in.
This is Councilwoman Friedman.
Yes.
So as a follow-up to that question, I know that there are some web-based or webinar providers that have the technology where they will provide real-time closed captioning. I've attended a few webinars like that because it seems like $700 would not be enough to have, for example, an American Sign Language interpreter at every meeting. But if our meetings are not ADA compliant, and I'm not very familiar with those laws, but it seems like maybe our meetings right now are not. I'm wondering if in lieu of an ASL interpreter, we could maybe look into some kind of live closed captioning or some other way to make sure that our meetings are ADA compliant and accessible to people who are deaf or hard of hearing.
Absolutely, yes. Closed captioning would be a good thing. We could definitely look into that. But there are, various situations in our office where we do need an interpreter or some sort of translation service outside of just council meetings. But yes, closed captioning is something we should look into.
Okay, and one final question.
Oh, no, you go ahead, Councilwoman.
You sure? All right. Legal ads. Can you give me an example of what falls in this category under the city clerk?
Yeah, so we do a lot of legal notices with the Press and Sun. All of our bonding, those all require legal notices. This budget, believe it or not, requires a legal notice for the public hearing. And those are pricey. And 900 is about right for what we typically spend.
Thank you.
This is Councilwoman Friedman.
Yes.
I have one last question. There are two budget lines here, the office supplies and the travel and training, where we haven't spent a lot of money, but we have way more money budgeted than we have proportionally spent. I'm wondering if both of those are related to COVID, the decreases in the amount that we've spent.
So in 2019, on the office supply line, we actually went over. And I know we haven't spent a whole lot here up until October 2nd. I know we just put in a big order in the last 2 weeks here for our office. And then one of the big purchase items we wanted to make this year was an actual cart to help with records management. So we're constantly moving boxes from one end of the building to the other, or to the loading dock. And the clerk's office doesn't even have a cart right now. I've been borrowing other departments' carts. So we're hoping to purchase one of those towards the end of the year. We just want to make sure we have enough money to do so. And then the travel and training line, the New York State Clerks Association Conference, they have one every year. This year, they did end up canceling it, but I've been clerk for 4 years now, and I've yet to attend a conference because we always seem to get busy around that time of year. But at some point, we would like to attend the conference, either Grace and I or both of us.
Okay, thanks. I hope you get to go to a conference too.
Yes. Okay. And then if there's no more questions, we can move on to page 31. Page 31 is our elections cost. So we actually outsource the administration of our elections, just like every other town in Broome County, to the Broome County Board of Elections. And they have been charging us a flat rate for 4 years now of $61,049. So that cost is not going up next year. But I do expect it to go up the year after that.
Okay, we good on that page?
Yes.
64, animal control.
Okay. And this one, there's not a whole lot of changes from last year. It's about the same. Our dog control officer, he's operating on kind of a minimal budget. The animal shelter, we're on a 5-year contract with them. I think we're 3 years into it. So that goes up by CPI every year. So that's why there's a bit of an increase there with the Front Street dog shelter. Any questions on animal control?
Okay, thanks, Lee. Do I have a motion to approve pages 24, 25, 31, and 64?
So moved. Second.
Second.
Who did the motion? Gio got the second. Who motioned?
That was Angela Riley.
Okay, thanks, Councilwoman Riley. Okay, all in favor of approving moving those pages? Aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Okay, Lori and Ken, that's Councilwoman Riley motion and Councilman Scaringi on the second for those pages.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, thanks, Lee. Appreciate it. Lee, I just want to mention that I didn't say much there, but I appreciate you being honest with us and being able to, it's hard sometimes to talk about yourself. You do a great job, and we will definitely, in my opinion, keep that under advisement when, along with other things across this budget, if we were able to get some funding, and at some point we'll have to consider that whether we get additional funding or not. But I appreciate your willingness to say that. Like I said, sometimes it's hard to be in that position, but I heard what you said, and I'm sure all of us did, and I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, is Lori out there?
Yes, I am.
Okay, I'd like to officially open pages 42, 43, page 200 as it applies to info management and technology, and 32 records management. Go ahead, Lori.
Okay, we'll start with page 42. On that line, my staff is all filled. Overtime we reduced from $1,500 to $500. My staff usually takes comp time when they work overtime. The general operating supplies I reduced by almost $3,000. Printing stays the same. Wireless fees were reduced by about $5,000. We reevaluated devices, took out what we didn't need to save money. The parking kiosk fees services line, there is zero. That money was transferred to the treasurer's office. We talked with John about that on the first night. Those expenses belong there now. Security services, that's our contract with Broome County for after-hour security. You'll see there's money encumbered. I've encumbered it for the year, and there's still bills that they haven't billed us for last year, but we've spent hardly anything because there's no after-hours meetings. So that money will go back into the budget. Technical services decreased substantially, again, because we transferred some of those expenses to the treasurer's office. Hardware, software maintenance, it increased a little bit from the prior year. This is all the hardware, software maintenance subscription fees for every piece of software that the city uses across all of the departments. Travel and training, we haven't spent anything this year. Any training classes that we found have been free this year, but beginning next year, again, I'd like to send my staff for training. And the subscription dues and memberships, this is a subscription to the Water Isaac website. Any questions?
Yes, this is Councilwoman Friedman.
Yes.
First of all, I want to say that looking through your department budget, you did a great job at really cutting it down. I know that probably must have been really hard to do, but I want to say that I would like to acknowledge that. I know that must have been difficult. My question is about the meeting streaming. So I know that we started doing the GoToWebinar or the live streams of the meetings because we can't have meetings in person. I personally think that we should continue to do this even when we can meet in person, just to increase the accessibility and transparency of our meetings. And I was wondering if anywhere in your department budget there was the required hardware or software or like web hosting, so that we can continue to do this into next year and beyond.
Yes, I've added the subscription for the GoToWebinar, GoToMeeting subscriptions for all our meetings. We've also already purchased the large monitors, the sound bars, and the microphones for both the work session room and council chambers. And as soon as we are closer to going back to live meetings, we'll purchase the cameras that are most up to date at that time, and we'll be ready to go. We will continue doing the format we're doing them right now.
Okay, that sounds great. So those cameras are would be in the hardware budget? Those
No.
are already budgeted for?
They'll be in, when the next page we'll go to is my capital line where I put all my equipment. The money is put in there for it.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you for the clarification.
You're welcome. If there's no other questions, want to go to page 200?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Page 200 is the information technology section. I have 4 separate lines there. The first line is the citywide hardware software. That is all the computers, servers, access points, firewalls, switches, modems, everything that we use in City Hall, except for police and fire. So this year I'm asking for 56,000, which is a reduction from 81,000 I requested last year. Engineering hardware, we're putting $8,000 aside every year to replace the plotter in engineering. That's a very expensive piece of equipment, so we don't want to hit the budget at one time. This will be the 3rd year, so I think 2 more years we'll have enough to replace that plotter. So we'll just keep budgeting on an annual basis for that. Fire hardware, I'm only requesting $1,000. I dropped that from 13,500 from last year. We've replaced all the computers in the fire department. $1,000 will give me just for anything that breaks. Police hardware, I'm requesting 2,500. That's a reduction from 28,000 the previous year. We have upgraded every computer in the police department but one.
Thank you.
And the printers are good, and I have a little bit of money left from this year, so we should be good for next year. Any questions? Okay, do you want to go back to page 32 is the records management page?
Okay.
Okay, this page, the rent or lease line, this is where we pay the rent of the storage area at Rogers for our paper records. We do not store them here, we house them at Rogers. And the other line is our shredding line. When records need to be shredded, either what is stored at Rogers or what we have in City Hall that is ready to be shredded, that Lee takes care of, it's paid for out of this line. Any questions?
Mr. President, I'll make a motion to move pages 32, 42, 43, and 200 as it relates to IT.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. All in favor of moving those pages? Aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Okay, thank you, Lori. Thanks
Thank
for
you.
being organized. I know you help with a lot of this, so you're good at it, but you did a great job on the budget itself and presenting it, so thank you for that.
Thank you.
Lori and
Thank you,
Ken,
Lori, for all your work.
Yep, thank you. We had Councilman Scaringi on the motion and Councilwoman Riley on the second for those pages for IT.
Thank you.
Okay, we got Jared with us.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, all right, hold on, Jared. I'd like to officially open pages 15 to 16, Mayor's Office, and pages 45, Municipal Association dues, 67, Vital Statistics, 84, Celebrations, and 83, Library. Go ahead, Jared.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Council. I've got several different areas that we're responsible for. I'll start with the Mayor's Office budget itself. One of the big differences this year in personnel services is that we're bringing down the lead agency project manager to a shorter time period. We do not believe that that position will be needed for the entirety of 2021, but may be needed as the project transitions at the Joint Sewage Treatment Plant from rehabilitation operations to actually plant management. There's still a lot of paperwork that needs to be done, funding to fight for, et cetera. So that is regarding the big difference in personnel services. As was noted before, no raises as part of this year's budget for the mayor. in addition, for some of the new folks on City Council, where the costs are for the Lee Barta Community Center is in the mayor's office budget. So that's where you see the Barta Center heat and electricity, as well as building improvements, maintenance as part of the Barta Center at 108 Liberty. Those amounts are guided by an agreement we have with United Way, who leases the building for its services as well. So those are the big changes in the mayor's office budget for 2021.
All right, any questions for Jared on the mayor's budget? Mayor's office budget, I should say. Okay, why don't you go ahead?
Okay, going to vital or municipal associations and dues. This is to fund the city's membership to the New York Conference of Mayors, which is municipal organizations that represent cities and villages across New York State. And Mayor David happens to be the current NICOM president at this point.
Can I just throw in, NICOM is not just something that the mayor belongs to, it's a resource that is used throughout the city. We actually contact them frequently, and when I spoke earlier about getting a lot of free CLE classes, most of those were through NICOM because we were members.
And NICOM's resources are available to City Council as well.
Jared, it's Councilman Burns. Where do we see what those are? Where can we see what those are?
I think their website is nycom.org, nycom.org. They have a lot of different resources in terms of reports, trainings, surveys on a number of different municipal disciplines. We can, if you want to offline, we can get you the different information to get you the documents and trainings, resources that they have.
Cool, thanks.
This is Councilwoman Friedman.
Go ahead.
Thanks. I was wondering, so this $3,000 under the travel and training, is that covers City Council's membership in NICOM?
Are you referring to A1210.54107?
54701.
Oh, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. That would be travel and training for the mayor's office budget. So that would include NICOM meetings, U.S. Conference of Mayor meetings. We reduced it heavily this for next year, assuming that there'll be less in-person meetings for 2021 compared to previous years.
Okay, so when you said that City Council has access to the NICOM resources, do we have memberships there that's covered in the budget?
The city has a membership which is funded through the municipal associations and dues. That covers all of the cities. So again, that website, nycom.org, they have publications. They put on trainings for municipal employees. This is for cities and villages across New York State. So that subscription that we have grants the city free access to that information.
Okay, I see. Because I've been on that website before. I didn't realize I had a membership.
Additional things.
Right. No, that's good to know because I visited the website before and I didn't realize that some of the information or the resources are restricted to members, but I didn't realize we had memberships.
We can absolutely get you
that
information.
This is Councilwoman Riley. Yes, Jared, I would like that information about the membership as well.
Okay. I'm not sure if we're still on the membership dues or we want to move to the next section, I think is maybe
Well,
vital.
go ahead to vital statistics.
Okay. So vital statistics is a department that falls within the mayor's office. It has one full-time employee and one employee that's shared with the city clerk's office. This is for the registry of birth and death certificates within the city of Binghamton, as well as how residents can procure them if they need a certified copy. If you, earlier in the budget in the revenue section, A41603, see that 66,500 is budgeted for vital statistics fees. These are the monies that are received every time a constituent wants to get a certified copy or a registration of a birth or death certificate is made. So it's a very small department, really only office supplies and printing, and the 1.5 personnel to provide the birth and death certificates.
Celebrations.
Okay. This is part of what funds large-scale community events as it relates to community event sponsorship, events such as a parade day, the ACA All Nations celebration, and notably LUMA is the main source of this funding. We did have it split in the past between parade expenses and community events. We just thought it made sense just to have it in one line. But when the city does make sponsorships, again, primarily of an event like LUMA, this is where the money would come from.
This is Councilwoman Friedman. Sorry. So I noticed that in the community events line, we have spent all of the $17,500. What was that event on?
I don't have it in front of me, but I believe that was LUMA, the digital experience they had this year.
I see. Okay. I was just surprised to see that. Pleasantly surprised.
Yep. If there are no other questions, we could probably move to the library on page 83.
Yep.
So some 20 years ago, when the new library was built downtown, the city and county entered into an agreement by which the city would provide certain operation funding for the joint public library. I won't get into too much detail, but the city used to fund satellite libraries. Councilman Scanlon, you probably remember the one on Robinson Street on the east side. It was there for a couple years. And as part of a new centralized downtown library, the city of Binghamton provided operating funds to Broome County. This is not insignificant, as you'll see in the 2021 proposed budget, north of $761,000. That represents a huge part of the library's operating budget. This is set by agreement, so to honor that agreement. The library, under normal circumstances, is actually the most visited attraction in Broome County, with some 295,000 visitors per year. So that's bringing those individuals into the downtown area. And we think it's a really important investment. Again, knowing that more and more that this is becoming a larger part of the revenue for the joint public library. So that's something for everyone to kind of just be knowledgeable about. But one that's set by agreement, signed many years ago.
This is Councilwoman Riley. Thank you for that information, Jared. I love the library. What is our percentage of the contribution? So this 700,000 represents what percentage of that's in the agreement?
So the agreement was set at a certain dollar amount, which increases by CPI every year. So it wasn't always 761,000, and it's not driven by percentage of the operating budget. It was a dollar amount that was set, some 20 years ago that's been increasing by CPI over the years. But I think anecdotally, you know, in this next year's budget, Broome County certainly provides more direct funding, but we're, you know, between maybe 30 and 40% of the operating costs for the library on a non-capital level.
Thank you for that.
Sure, this is Councilman Scanlon. I have no problem with the library either, but is there an end to this contract? Is there a date, a year end on this contract, or no? Or this agreement, I should say.
I do not believe so. I think it's, you know, there may be a mechanism for one of the municipalities to get out of it, but it is in perpetuity.
And all the municipalities in Broome County contribute to this?
The city is the only municipality that contributes in this manner.
Okay. All right, thank you.
And I believe that was all my pages.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to move pages 15, 16, 45, 67, 83, and 84.
May I ask one question before we move the pages? Is that okay?
Sure. Yep, go ahead.
Thank you. I just want to flip back to page 16, if that's okay. And I was wondering, Jared, if you could please provide more information on what after school programming the city funds.
Let me see if I can bring that up here. I know in the past that we've used some of this money for specific programs at the Boys and Girls Club for Copernic to do after school programs highlighting STEM. But I can give you an idea this year if you give me a quick second. Just going through the process of drawing up the line. Here. Okay. You're still with me?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you for looking that up. I appreciate it.
No problem. Our expenses the last couple of years in the youth programming line have been used to fund the CARES program, which is the backpack giveaway program. That was in 19 and 20.
And this year, do you expect to fund other programs or just an increase in the backpack giveaway program?
Probably an increase in the backpack program. I know that there's always the demand, but there's always times where something else comes up where we get a request from the school district or one of the youth programming entities that's kind of may not fit any one program and they need some gap funding. And we're not talking about large amounts, but CARES would be our number one priority.
Okay, thanks.
Jerry, can I quickly ask a question regarding that? So I'm sorry, just to understand. So when we're talking about the youth programming, then what you're saying is that it's just a CARES program the city funded and not any of the other specific programs that you mentioned earlier at Boys and Girls Club or Copernic and that kind of thing that did not happen this past year. and we're not planning on funding these programs this year coming up?
No, I was before I had a chance to look at the actual budget lines. I was thinking that there were other youth programs. They were likely paid out of another source. But yeah, the last 2 years, it's been the CARES backpack giveaway program. When we were able to, we had a large event where you had other agencies that were doing some outreach work. I think there's some voter registration, et cetera. But that was what the funds were spent at this year and last year.
Okay, thank you.
Of course, many of the other programs are funded through the city's CDBG budget.
Sure, thanks.
Okay, thanks, Jared. I got our Councilman Scringy already a motion to approve 15, 16, 45, 67, 83, and 84. Do I have a second for that?
Second.
Okay, all in favor of moving those pages?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, Lori and Ken, we have Councilman Scringy on the motion and Councilwoman Rezanetti on the second. Just for 2 seconds, everyone, before we adjourn, tomorrow night, we only have 2 presenters, so that's good. We have a lot of ground to cover. I'm not sure about Chief Sikoski's availability, but I did just communicate with Chuck. And as we all know, Chuck has a unbelievable handle on this, as he always does. So I would encourage you, he is available tomorrow. So if there's anything that's just little things, and we've had a lot of good questions tonight, if there's anything little that Chuck could answer for you during the day, please get a hold of him, and that might save us a few minutes. So we want to be very thorough tomorrow night, and we've covered a lot of ground. I appreciate everyone's participation. But so it's not a complete marathon for us all tomorrow, including Chuck. He does have some time during the day, so I would just encourage you to, and I don't want to speak for Chief Sikoski whether he's available during the day or not, but you can certainly try. But Chuck did say he is available just a couple minutes ago. So I would encourage everybody to, especially those line items that are benefits and comp and insurance and that type of thing. A lot of mechanical items in Chuck's sections that we might be able to answer during the day if we have any questions. So I will take a motion to adjourn for this evening.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
We got Councilwoman Friedman on the motion and Councilwoman Riley on the second. We are adjourned. We will see everybody tomorrow night at 5:15.
Good night.
All right, have a good night.
Good night.